A great saying says you don't got to work out to hang out. And I love that one. Like,
I love that.
you know, in the gym too, I tell people in the gym, you don't got to work out to hang out, come hang out. Like, especially people in recovery. Like, you want to come in and just have a pot of coffee, let's go. Like, just be here rather than someplace else, right? So if it means that you're calling me or just coming into the gym or whatever to not be someplace else, I'm here. So.
Stories are powerful.
Welcome to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast, brought to you by The Phoenix. This is a space where people impacted by substance use can come to share their story of strength and resilience, get open and honest, and inspire hope and build community through shared experience.
We'll be talking to people in our community on their own recovery journey and shine a light on the topic of recovery in all its forms. Maybe you'll hear some of your story in theirs.
Let's show the world that together we rise, recover, and live.
Welcome, everybody, to yet another episode of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. We are your hosts, Bryce III, he, him pronouns.
Liz McKean, she, her pronouns.
And how are you feeling today, Liz? That's another way to ask, how's your energy? See, I switched it up a little bit.
Oh, it's very creative. I am doing well. Yeah, we're recording this on a day that is before a day off, which is kind of a cool thing. And yeah, it's going to be one of those weeks, I think, where I don't know what day it is or where I am the entire week. It's going to always be a big question mark, which is kind of exciting. So how about you? How you doing, Bryce?
I'm doing good. I'm not going to lie. That answer, and this is just a little bit of challenge, sounded like that was the automatic answer. And maybe there may be something else that you could share. I mean, you said your back wasn't feeling well. I haven't talked to you in a minute. And so not to put you on blast in front of everybody, but we will talk a little bit more after this episode.
Oh, snap. Okay. Well, I'll think harder about my answer.
Go deeper. No, as for my energy, I'm cool. I'm excited about today's guest. I really appreciate the guest that I have no context for before we kind of get into it, because I get to learn about a person in real time. And I think that causes for some organic conversation. Plus, our guest today had input on my existential question of why do humans, what is the purpose of humans? And he just had his answer that's a big question. But my answer would be, it's whoa, this guy might be my type of person. So I'm excited to have this conversation today. And who do we have here with us today, Liz?
Today we have the wonderful Alex Esqueda, who is a 10-year CrossFit affiliate owner and husband and father, this person in recovery, and a friend to one of our show favorites. Nick Wells actually was one who highly recommended that we bring Alex on the show to talk about his experience and all that he's doing for the recovery community. So yeah, I'm so excited to get to know him more. Also, because he is my neighbor now in Florida, which is kind of cool. So welcome, Alex. How are you today?
Hey, what is going on, you guys? Thank you for inviting me to the show.
Of course. Yeah,
I'm doing well.
Pleasure.
I'm doing much better now that I'm in the warmth rather than the cold.
Where you were coming from again? Where are you now, and where were you coming from?
So I'm in the process of relocating from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Yeah, my family and I have spent the last 19 years in Colorado there. We're originally from Las Vegas, Nevada, so I'm born and raised in Las Vegas, and moved to Colorado back in 2004, and honestly never really kind of adjusted to the climate, never really kind of felt like a cold weather mountain guy. And so from Vegas, and I like to say a short 19-year stint in Colorado, and now I'm back to my kind of climate. So it's nice to be back in the warm again.
Oh, that's a beautiful homecoming. It sounds like I was born and raised here in Michigan, and I've never become a cold weather person. I think it's in certain people's genes to just be oriented to a certain type of weather. I don't know what that's about.
I agree, and and when people are like, "Oh, I love the cold," I'm like, I don't get that, man. To me, it's just miserable in every form and fashion of it. Who enjoys that? But I guess that's in the blood or something. Now, I will say, so I have 3 kids. I have 3 daughters. 2 of them were born in Vegas before we left, and then the third one was born in Colorado. She's different. She'll walk outside with no jacket on. She'll do the other two are warm blooded and she's cold blooded. So there is something there. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's up with that. But
It's interesting. Well, Colorado is like a whole different beast too. I'm sure. I mean, it's not the only place in the country that's like this or the world, but like I I like Colorado a lot, and I am lucky enough to be able to travel there for work with some frequency. But it's not even the cold for me. Actually, the cold I can handle better there than I can from New York, where I'm from, because at least it's sunny in Colorado, and that's such a big that makes it so much less painful. But it's the dry and the elevation that my body just like vehemently rejects. So it's like we can't. So
that's tough. It's tough for sure.
Tough people there that just adapt to that.
And honestly, and there's a lot of study behind that. High altitude living and some certain negative negative effects to health. My wife does not do good in altitude. She's really never done well, so she's done there with her health. That's another reasons we really wanted to relocate and kind of get her out of there. But yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. And like, I'm from Vegas, so that's a dry climate too, but that's high desert, so quite a bit different. But I got this thing. I mean, Colorado Springs, I'm not sure if you know that area very well, but it's 6 below in the morning, and then by 2 o'clock it's 65 and sunny. So you're like, you leave the house with a down jacket on and you go home with a tank top on. It's crazy, but it's it's like I've always joked that like it gives you just enough to make you still think you like it there, but then like you're like it's like it's freezing, and then you're like it's not so bad, right? And then you're like it's hailing, but then like it's gone, it's sunny again, it's not so bad. Like just keeps you on the hook a little bit there,
Oh man, that's really funny. Yeah, like an unhealthy relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, just enough to think you still like them.
Yeah.
That sounds super challenging. And in the realm of things that are super challenging, let's talk CrossFit.
Yeah, buddy. So I don't know. I get this inclination that you don't do CrossFit.
I know.
What's going on, Bryce?
When you were describing, I didn't get a chance to pop in. If we were in person, my quit would have been quicker. But you was like, nobody likes that. Like, why would anybody want to do that? And I'm thinking like, that's CrossFit.
You're like, this guy CrossFit. So like, he's definitely he's a glutton for punishment already. We know that.
Yeah. I am like the relationship with my body has been in development for the past 3 years of my life, and in my recovery, which this month will make 10 years.
Nice.
The body, the physical aspect of it, the relationship with like this vessel has been a later development. In the beginning, it was like, okay, let's get the toxins out. Within the first year of recovery, I stopped smoking cigarettes. Would do things to get a bit active, want to ride bikes, but when it comes to like doing something that I don't want to do. So we're talking like cold baths, we're talking like CrossFit, we're talking like running and doing things that like I don't want to do. That is something that I've just kind of started to crack the door open on. And I would have you know that last week I joined a gym here closest to me. It's within walking distance, and it's Orange Theory Fitness. It's like a thing where like people like run you through things like high intensity, which is it feels similar to some of the CrossFit stuff we have, some Phoenix CrossFit stuff that we have here. So I'm excited for this new journey.
On that note, I think so. I'm obviously biased from the CrossFit approach to fitness, but I think I'm glad that you went with the Orange Theory thing. I think they have a great program that helps people get in good habits and good routines of fitness. So I think it's a great introduction to fitness for you, man. And when it comes to fitness, man, anything that you'll do consistently is the best thing. Any movement, so get on that, man. Get in there.
Yeah.
So if I heard you right, you're 10 years recovery and now just starting the more physical aspect of getting a little more active?
Yeah, the beginning, I was really led on the journey of like, okay, the inner and outer world. So like the spiritual aspect of it, the emotional aspect of it is what I really leaned heavily upon when I first got here. And just recently, and as above, so below, as within, so without. In recovery, I've come to learn that like everything plays a role into the next thing. And so like when there's this new development within the past year or so that if I drink a milkshake, within like 30 minutes, I get sad, and people have talked to me about like gut health and like, how the gut brain can play into how it is that we show up and how we're emotionally capable. And like milk and milkshakes, though they taste delicious and I get that little rush from like the sugar rush, and it's like, oh, this is wonderful. Life is grand. But then like 30 minutes after, like my stomach's messed up and I am depressed. And it's like, what is this about? And so it's like, oh, there's a direct line, a direct correlation between my physical health and like my spiritual and emotional health. And what is this about? What is this about?
Absolutely. I find that super interesting, to be honest with you. That I mean, like there's like you said, right? We have all these holistic approach to recovery, right? And like you're seeing here, that each one plays its role. For me, the physical aspect was more predominant than for you, like you said, the more spiritual and the connection aspect. And I really love that that you have 10 years of recovery, and your side is more dominant and biased towards that aspect, and my side's more on the physical side, but yet equally just as effective. I think that's a really cool topic of discussion and thing to look at. So yeah, no.
Yeah, I think.
But yeah, they all support each other and are connected. Can't have one without the other in some sense.
I think the most important thing too, and well, for at this moment, because I'm sure next time you talk to me, I'll have the next most important thing that I think is the most important thing. But right now, in this conversation, in this context, just the awareness, the conversation with ourselves that allows for us to be receptive to what it is that we feel that we need. It has something that I've gained in recovery, that sensitivity to, okay, I need to pay attention to my body more, or that sensitivity to where, like, why did I just get pissed off? And why am I angry? And why can I not control my emotions? Or that, receptivity to, I need something more spiritually than I've had previously to be able to show up for this season in my life. And just that receptivity to those inclinations for me has been like a very important part of my recovery, and being willing to like say, well, have the humility to say, well, what do I need? Like, where do I need to go? Who do I need to talk to? Let me call up Alex, because Alex seems like he knows something about CrossFit. And even though I don't want to do it, maybe he can show me what it is that'll help me to make my life better. So
yeah, I think there's there's no shortage of clinical studies and research out there, more and more recently too, that's showing the benefits of physical activity, with dopamine release, serotonin levels, brain function, white and gray matter that are produced and have great and have better flow and connect better and transmit better in the brain when we have higher muscle mass. Like there's just so much cool stuff, right? So it's like, you exercise, the old cliches of just, bros and all this stuff and protein and everything, is just this one aspect and one facet of fitness. And there's so much more going on, right? So where, building muscle mass helps depression, building muscle mass helps, prevent brain disorders and all kinds of cool stuff, man. So there's just like exercise is such a necessity, and our bodies they just crave hard work, and just such a cool benefit. So yeah, we got to get you in a gym. This is what I was trying to say.
All right, I get the hint.
Bryce, how old are you?
I just turned 34.
Oh, you're young. I didn't even start CrossFit until I was 33.
So you're only 1 year behind, Bryce.
Well, there we go.
You still got a whole year to catch up with Alex.
There we go.
It's the same old thing. If I wish I would have found it sooner, right? If I'd have found CrossFit 10 years earlier, man, I would have saved myself a lot of pain and suffering with addiction and all those things. But yeah, just life and family, and would have saved a lot of issues if I'd have found that physical outlet years earlier.
Was that right in line for you? Did CrossFit and just like physical fitness in general come before or after addiction, throughout? Like, what was your story a little bit?
So I got sober January of 2012. And I spent that next little over a year just as they say, white knuckling it and kind of just hanging on for dear life. Knowing that was kind of it. Like that was my last opportunity for sobriety when it came to like my wife and my marriage and my family and my job and all those things, right? That was like that was it. So, but it wasn't a healthy existence. It was a lot of that, and like everybody knows. But and then I found CrossFit. Well, actually, my wife found CrossFit. I got to credit her before she gets mad at me. She found CrossFit and started doing it with a small gym in Falcon, Colorado, and I had no concept of what CrossFit was. Zero. I'd never seen it on TV. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know what they were doing. I just knew I hated the gym. I hated commercial gyms. I didn't like anything about them. My wife would try and get me to go, and I hated the environment. I didn't like the, people staring in the mirror with their headphones on. I thought it was ego. I thought it was terrible. I didn't know what to do in gyms, So she tried to get me to go to the gym. I'm like, I'm not doing that. So she started going and then coming home and telling me all about it and what was going on. She's like, this is different. It's completely different. It's not like the Gold's Gym and all that stuff. It's, we're having fun. So she convinced me to go, and that was it. I went one morning and couldn't believe my eyes what was going on in this little gym. It was this little, 900 square foot metal shed in the middle of nowhere in the sticks in Colorado with a pellet stove in the corner heating the place up. And the music was blasting and people were, doing like swinging kettlebells around and dropping barbells. And I was like, holy cow, like this is cool. Right.
Was there a dog there?
There was no, not at that time, but there typically is. Yeah,
no, so that's my favorite thing about CrossFit gyms is there's always a dog.
Wait a minute, everybody's CrossFit gym has a dog.
For the most part, yeah. Yeah, squirrel side note here. We were just about to lease a building, and the owner, as I'm reading through the lease, it says no dogs. I'm like, whoa, here. So, but whatever, that's a side thing. But we worked through that. So I did a class and, typical, CrossFit story. That was it. I just bought in and I was able to just sink all that frustration and pent up, energy and inside of me that needed to come out that I had originally, dumped into addiction. I just dumped it into CrossFit. I just dumped it in that. And I just started nerding out and learning as much as I could. And then got super obsessed with nutrition and food and then that was it. I hate that the same, but I kind of switched one addiction for the other, and that was it. And I never looked back. There was, and I honestly think if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have made it. I don't think I would have survived that any longer. So I do attribute, a large portion of my continued sobriety to CrossFit and kind of saved my life in that sense for sure. And, it's CrossFit, but it's kind of the whole package, right? It's the affiliate model. It's the community, what it provides. That's really, really what it was. And then the physical activity, the physical side of CrossFit is only, again, we're talking about all these breakdown and facets of different things, right? Well, the physical activity side of CrossFit is only one facet of what's going on within those walls. Right, we see it in the Phoenix Affiliate Center. I mean, the Phoenix Community Centers, right? Like, yeah, people are doing fitness in there, but there's so much more going on within these walls, between the connection with people and with all that stuff. So that's what I found, and then yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that connection piece, I think, is just the through line that's the reason I think, Phoenix and CrossFit have had the relationship that we've had. And so many people have found both or found one through the other. And, there's certainly a lot more, you can be part of Phoenix if anybody's listening and you're brand new to Phoenix. You don't have to do CrossFit. Very cool to try though. Actually, I'm not, I never thought I would be a CrossFit person and I'm not consistently, but that was my introduction to Phoenix is just going to CrossFit gym, just giving it a try and finding that community, just that welcoming vibe. And not only just about the recovery part, because I think, that's what attracted me to Phoenix too, is that, all pathways come as you are, what's working for you. We're just so glad that something is working and that you're here. And it was the same kind of feeling I've gotten whenever I've walked into, one of those spaces, which is just like you said, like, Bryce brought up Orange Theory. I've heard other gym owners that are in different areas not have such a, yeah, that's great. Like, I'm so glad you're doing that. That's not always the case. Sometimes it's like, no, this is the way. Like, here's why we're better than that. And it's not that, it's the thing that's going to work for you is the thing that you're going to do. And I'm so glad you're doing something. And here's what I love about my thing. And I hope you're welcome to find it here, find it elsewhere. And I think that is like just barriers to fitness, barriers to recovery, barriers to all the things that could fill us up can so often be the feeling that if you're not doing this, you're doing it wrong. And I love the way you're talking about it. That's
absolutely. I get that a lot. Like a lot of people expect me to, to be this, this CrossFit purist that thinks if you're not doing what we're doing, then you're not cool enough, or you're not, you're not really getting fit. Obviously, I think our path and our approach is probably the more effective. But I just love people getting moving, and there's utility and there's benefits and everything. As long as they're not sitting on the couch, we're doing good. Whatever they're doing, if they're in the park with a dumbbell with some friends, or they're in Orange Theory, or they're in whatever gym, I just want to encourage people to appreciate and prioritize movement. However, that's it, man, because that's what's going to happen. So, but yeah, so that's what that happened. That was 2013. And then I got so obsessed that I got my level 1 within about 6 months. I got my level 2 within the year, trainer certification from CrossFit, and open CrossFit Decimate in September of 14. So there was kind of no holding me back. I just went for it.
All in, yeah.
Yeah, we were kind of in a situation where, like, I was working full time for an auto auction dealership as an outside rep, so in the car business, and family of 5, 3 kids, single income family. We always were, I was always working 2 jobs, and, either, I was working in the daytime, waiting tables at night, bartending, doing something. Our family has a restaurant down south, so I'd be traveling and, waiting tables all weekend. So we always had some additional source of income for the family. So I told my wife, I was like, let's just open a gym. Like, why not? We can open this affiliate. We can, start giving back to the community, doing what it did, for them, what it did for us. It'll be a little bit of additional source of income. And that was it. Then I worked, we opened in, like I said, in September 14. And I worked 2 jobs and I'd for like 6.5, almost 7 years. So I'd open the affiliate at 5 a.m., teach the 5 and 6 a.m. class. I'd go to work. My wife would teach the midday classes, and then I'd drive back and teach the 4 or 5 and 6 o'clock class. And we just did that for years and years until we just built a little bit more staff. And burning the candle at both ends, as they say, for years until we kind of grew a little bit and got a little larger staff. And but yeah, that was it.
That's cool. Was your kind of recovery and your relationship with CrossFit and the CrossFit community pretty immediately integrated, or were they 2 separate things? And then I know Phoenix is part of your story too.
Yeah. So a couple sides to that answer. One, I've always been I've always taught for the most part, our fundamentals classes. So when new athletes come in, whether they're new to CrossFit or whatever it might be, we do a fundamentals course to get people, up to speed and all that kind of stuff. But in the fundamentals course, I'm very much, I'm really much a why guy. I want to impart this knowledge, right, of why are we doing this, right? It's CrossFit methodology, what it is, and why do we train the way we do? But as I explain that, and I explain the benefits of why this is going to benefit people's lives, right? I've always shared my story. One way or the other in fundamentals, when people walk in, I've shared my story. It's important to do because, one, selfishly, it's a benefit to me, right? Because it's accountability for me. I've always felt like the more people I share my story with, now I'm accountable to more people. That's always been kind of my theory. It shows a little bit of vulnerability in the sense of, a lot of people are intimidated when they come into a CrossFit gym. So they see me or they see whatever and they think, oh, this guy he's got it all together and he's been fit his whole life or something. And you got to break that down and be like, hey, I walked in here 40 pounds overweight. I've struggled with this and I struggle just to walk through the doors some days, and it's okay. So that kind of, when people come into the gym, it kind of lessens that intimidation, makes everybody a little bit more human. And I got a million stories about the times that I've shared that story with people in fundamentals. And then months later or a year later, they'll come up to me and say, hey, like when you shared that, like I knew I was in the right place, or I made me feel so much more comfortable with being here. Or I had one couple that never said anything to me. And then it turns out they were in the same rehab center that I was the month before I was there.
Wow.
Yeah,
Small
so
world.
it's really a lot of benefit in just that transparency, right? So yeah, I mean, since day one, I've made recovery and made that aspect of kind of a little bit of the culture and the personality of our gym, if you will. And so that's always been in that. So yeah, the other half of the question. We like I said, we opened in 2014. And in those days in Colorado Springs, there was a handful of gyms that were kind of like the bigger gyms in town, like the cool kids, And I'm very much a social butterfly, as my wife calls me. So when I got in the community, I just kind of cruised around and introduced myself to everybody and said hello to everybody. I was like I it was like this like meeting this family that you never had for years, because this extended family. So I wanted to meet everybody and all that. And I met Chris Hoppy. So I don't know. Do you guys know Chris?
Yeah.
So I met Chris Hoppy.
Best.
Chris Hoppy and his mom owned Progressive Fitness CrossFit back in the day. They were one of the first affiliates in that area. And I just got to know them and built a relationship with them. And Chris and I would go have coffee every once in a while. And then, he shared his story with me and his mom's story. And I just had so much respect for him and his mom and what they were doing with their CrossFit affiliates that I felt like out of everybody I'd met, and don't get me wrong, a lot of good gyms in Colorado Springs area, but Chris was like one of the dudes to me who like got it, right? He really got it. He got that the true aspect of how much power we had as an affiliate to help people in whatever. Recovery, outside recovery, in any aspect of their lives. So that's why Chris and I kind of bonded in that sense. And he introduced me to the Phoenix program from there. And so then I just always knew it from there. And by extension, we kind of got involved a little bit. And, I would hit him up and be like, hey, any support that I can give, let me know. We'll try and do it. And we'd have I think we did like a couple like little fundraiser things every once in a while. And then when Chris ended up selling, he sold the Phoenix, he sold Progressive, technically sold it to the Phoenix, and all that happened. And then he moved and went off and took another role and all those things. There was a need for a gym to kind of step up and fill the pants, if you will, in Colorado Springs for, weekly classes and that kind of stuff. And I was just like, we're here. So, yeah, so I quickly jumped in on that to be a resource for that. And it was like maybe 2016-ish, 2017, something like that. We started hosting Phoenix classes. And then really kind of, we were finally able to run that Phoenix flag and have the gym in more of a capacity support. So
I think for me, I'm curious because you've mentioned your wife and your kids multiple times, so you could tell that those things are important to you. And me, my personal experience, I know how when I was in active addiction, like that disallowed me from being for my family like it is that I knew I could be. Um, uh, and I'm curious around like what initiated that initial, even though it was a year of like dry, like white knuckling it. Like, what was the catalyst that made you okay? I need to stop what I'm doing and embrace something different, even if you didn't necessarily know how you were gonna do it.
my years of addiction have a very typical story in the sense of years of denial and knowing you need to change and knowing you need to do this and the promises and the I'm going to change this and I'm going to the bargaining with yourself of I'm only going to drink on the weekends and I'm only going to drink beer and I'm not like all those things, right? I did them all, like every cliche one that you did it, right? I'm going to stop for a month, like whatever it is. And then you go through those cycles of self-condemning yourself because I love my kids, I love my wife. Why am I putting this thing ahead of them? Like we know that, right? So I went through all that. So really, the final catalyst to it was I was at my family's restaurant, which, like I mentioned, is down south, waiting tables on New Year's Eve, 2011. And I had been drinking, working at the same time, and like every typical addict, you think everybody doesn't know, but they do, right? My father-in-law, confronted me with it, and I got upset with him. And then my wife called me, and she says, "My dad says you're drinking," all this stuff. So that was it. I had it. I was like, I give up. I'm tired of defending myself. I'm leaving you. I'm leaving the kids. I'm leaving all this stuff. I'm going home, meaning back to Vegas. So I got I got in my car, and in the middle of the night, took 3.5 days to drive to Las Vegas, which is normally a 13-hour drive.
Mm.
So yeah, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about that experience in itself. We all know what transpired there. But I ended up in Vegas, went to my parents' house, talked with my family, got on the phone with my wife, sobered up, and she said, "Come home, check into rehab, and we'll make it work." And those words will never go out of my mind ever. But then I did. I got home. I checked into rehab. We made it work, and that was it. That was the stop digging. As they say,
Mm.
it wasn't rock bottom. I just stopped. I
Yeah.
just gave in. I threw in the towel. I said, I'm not gonna fight. I'm not gonna continue this fight anymore. I just, you concede. It's over, right? And that's it. So that was it. And checked into rehab, which honestly, looking back now, the rehab that place was a toilet. It was terrible.
I was really excited to see what word you came up with from that.
Yeah, it was awful. Like, when I went in there, like, yeah, I went in with this humble attitude, like, just accept it for what it is and be humble and shut your mouth, right? And you went through it was a 30-day it was an inpatient 30-day rehab. And
Mm-hmm.
but I looking at back now, and it was a mess. Like, it was run by these young people who knew nothing. Like, nothing really good was accomplished. It really was like 30 days to dry out, but it really was not a good rehab facility. It was expensive, but it was not a good rehab facility. Yeah, it was a mess, but it worked. It's what I needed, right? I needed it. I needed to disconnect myself from everything for that time period. And you learned. It was an awakening of that little fear of what it would have felt like to really lose my family and not be connected with them. So I needed that. I needed all that. So that was it.
It's funny that so much of your story, you were like, well, like everybody, and well, like we all do. Meanwhile, in the midst of it, we're all like, I am the only one, and I am the worst person in the world, and nobody else is experiencing what I'm experiencing. Sometimes it's like, I am the biggest victim. Other times it's like, I am the biggest villain, and it's like, I think it's actually cool I would imagine, if I was listening to this podcast, years ago when I was in the throes of, like you said, going through that, I am sober for a couple days, which must means I'm fine. So I'm just going to like throw myself back into this. And now, oh dear, I've ruined my life again, and if I had heard, somebody say like, well, yeah, like we all do, I would have been like, wait a minute, we all do? Like, wait, you too? Like me too? And my husband's been talking about
booze
that.
In the same place as me?
Hide booze. Right. I didn't know that was a thing other people did, I really didn't. My husband and I have been talking about this a lot lately. And he, as a supporter of me and, the having a front row seat to all the things that I think you and I have many in common, including drinking on the job at a restaurant, is that he was like, I wish somebody had told me that this was a thing that happened, that sometimes it didn't just like get fixed overnight, that, the person that loved you the most in the entire world and that you love most in the world will lie to you. And it doesn't mean that there's no hope, that they are under there. And then, all the things that on the other side that we can have these conversations and do, thank God, looking back, that it's like, no, I didn't know that. I didn't know that other people, and neither did the people who loved us. So thank you for saying it exactly like that, because I think that is helpful for folks to hear. That, like,
no, for sure. And that was, I think, that was one of the biggest things that benefited me during that time. I started doing a bunch of reading and a bunch of research, and actually started getting some education about addiction. And that was another big thing for me that really allowed myself to, I guess you can say, like, forgive yourself a little bit, right? You're like, okay, man, I'm not an awful person. I, I do love my kids. I do love my wife. These are the things. These are the reasons why. So yeah, education was huge. I wouldn't have stayed sober without education and really understanding the physiological side of addiction. I think that's important for people, or else it's very difficult. That's the why thing. I'm a why guy. Like why? Like I want to know. If I know why, then it's a lot easier to deal with, right? So now you know why you're making these choices. It's so much better.
What were some of the things that you learned that clicked that light bulb for you?
Even though yes, using is a choice. A lot of times that choice is stronger than us, and it doesn't mean it doesn't mean you don't love your friend, your family, and your wife and your kids. It means that you're suffering from a disease that is stronger than you. And it's not the disease is not it's not biased towards a person's moral choices and integrity. It'll take that down.
You're hijacked. Your brain has been
hijacked. It is taken down. And when my mom, so the alcoholism runs on both sides of my family. And I remember when I was about 15, 16 years old, my mom noticing that I was, a wayward teen doing stuff. And she said, you need to be careful. My mom understood things that I didn't realize she understood. She said, addiction is like a switch. And once you switch it on, it's very difficult to switch off. And it meant nothing to me at 15, 16 years old. But then you look back and mom was right. Once you switch that on, and the physiological side of addictions is active in the system, that's rough, man. So
what is it that I've heard? Oh no. As soon as it popped in my head, I realized Bryce is going to make fun of me for this. I'm going to say it anyways. It's that a cucumber can become a pickle, but a pickle cannot turn back into a cucumber. So once you've been pickled,
once you've been pickled,
you are a pickle. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Then learning that, everything is a hormone response.
Oh, that's interesting.
Everything is a hormone response. Literally, we're just one big walking hormone. And everything we do, whether it's nutrition or food or alcohol or booze or exercise or things, we're all chasing dopamine. That's all we're doing. Yeah. Everybody's chasing it getting it from someplace. So, us addicts are pretty determined people. So if we want to get something, we're going to get it. And if I want to get lean and, healthy, I'm going to get lean and healthy. If I want to open an affiliate and grow it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to open a second one in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm going to do it. Like we will get what we want done because we're chasing dopamine. We're chasing serotonin. We're chasing a hormone response.
And we're brilliant. Like there's so much brilliance in the recovery community. Like I tell you, there's because it can be a curse, I meet so many people, and I'm speaking in like a broad stereotype, which obviously is not going to feel correct for everybody. So I'll just speak for my experience, but meeting so many people who, have very, very busy brains and notice a lot of things and can want to know the why behind things. And that can be really challenging in the world that we live in that is like busy, and you have, there's a lot to do to be a person. So I think you're so right. And that's our superpower, and also can absolutely be our kryptonite.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is a conversation that started with what is the purpose of humans? I think there's a lot of curiosity in this room. Something else y'all were talking about too when it comes to like community. I've learned that has been like medicine, like to know. And such is the importance of a program like this, where I can listen to a show and hear some of my stories shared through somebody else. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not alone. But I found almost that like I intentionally seek out people or places or community that have had the same experiences I have, so that I can, I guess, find community. I don't know, like not feel so crazy about it. Like, I had an experience where the windshield of my car got hit by a rock. I'm 34. Half of my age I've been spent driving. And in that time, like I've never got hit by a rock with my car. So car got hit by a rock on the windshield, cracked the windshield, and it's like, okay, cool. Rode around with it cracked for a little bit. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I went and got it replaced. Got it replaced. It cost me like $300, $400 to get it replaced. 3 days after I got the windshield replaced, another rock hits my windshield, and cracks it at the top. And so called the place today. I finally called the place because they had like a lifetime warranty. I didn't know what that meant. So I called like, well, maybe, they'll just replace it and fix it because it got hit by another rock within 3 days. Like, that's wild, right? And I called and they're like, yeah, we replace it if there's wind or noise damage or something like this in relation to the job that we did. But we can't like
the things that don't actually break glass. But
we can't replace it because another rock hit it. And then like I just found myself in a space where it's like, I have to Google rock hit my windshield after I replaced the windshield within 3 or 4 days to find somebody who's had this experience where I'm going to go insane. And I Googled that exact phrase.
Here's your answer. Call anyone in Colorado. Literally, there's your answer. You can talk to everyone in the whole state.
Mountain lion fell on my windshield twice in a month. But yeah, I found somebody. And then when I found somebody, it's like, oh, like this is part of being alive and being a person. And I can deal with it better emotionally. Like I found community. I don't have to talk to the guy. I don't have to meet the guy, but it's just knowing that somebody else has had this experience allows for me to regulate my emotions, allows for me to like be able to spiritually accept and show up for life on life's terms. And I think that's so important to have somebody like you being willing to share their story in hopes that their seeds are planted of relating and creating community.
Yeah. Well, what's the saying, right? The opposite of addiction is connection.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. I mean, you start connection and realize that we're not the only ones. There's this. People understand. It's okay to talk about it. You don't have to hide it and suppress that. And, I'm a big firm believer that everything inside of us manifests itself somehow. It's going to manifest everything inside of you. If you don't understand communication and good communication skills and have a good connection with either your partner, your family, your community, it's going to come out. It either comes out in addiction, it comes out in some expression, art, activity, speech, whatever. So anything suppressed, you're going to have to find a healthy way to get it out. The unhealthy ways are typically pretty destructive.
And they're gonna find their way.
They find a way out. They will find a way out, and you will not like it if you let it be a negative expression. It's one of the things I try and work with my kids a lot. Is I come from a family that has very poor communication skills, and I shouldn't say I attribute it, but I think part of my developed into addiction was because of that. No way of communicating with family, no way of communicating with your parents properly, your siblings properly, and then for me it expressed itself in addiction. I'm not a huge AA fan in the traditional sense, but I did learn a lot from the book that way, right? That, okay, yes, others do this too. Others feel this way too, right? That was the biggest takeaway I got from the AA book was, there's a whole world of people out there like me.
You are not alone.
Yeah.
I love that.
We've got,
Alex,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say thank you and how much I appreciate you. But please, if you got more brilliance to share, please do.
Yeah, just my nuggets of wisdom. But yeah, last thing I was going to say, the reason I mentioned the human experience thing was I made the comment to my oldest daughter. She's 22. She's having a little rough go at life. She's doing okay. But I made the comment to her was like, honestly, like in all my pursuits over 40, I'm 44 years old now and gone through, I feel like I've lived 3 lives that we can do 3 other podcasts on. I didn't even tell you guys about my previous life before CrossFit. I really feel like the sum of life is just the experiences you have with your loved ones. I mean, you're going to blink and we're going to be 50. I'm going to blink, I'm going to be 80. And what is anything, whether it's material things or anything like that, of your memories and your experiences with the people you cared about, because everything else is gone at that point. Yeah. So none of it ultimately has any real importance except for that.
Yeah. Nobody blinked. Nobody blinked.
My favorite quotes was from, I want to say it was Warren Buffett. This guy's a billionaire, right? Billionaire. And they asked him what his definition of success was. And he said, success is when you die, that the people who you want to love you, love you. And I'm like, that has always stuck with me, right? Like that's, in a billionaire's mind, that's success. is that you had strong relationships, good communication. You prioritized building those strong connections with either community or the people you want to love you. That they actually do.
Yeah.
Cool. That's all I got. That's all my nuggets of wisdom there.
Well, thank you for all of those nuggets of wisdom. Those were very appreciated. And as always, folks who are listening, we have this really beautiful community with all sorts of diverse experiences, and the power of hearing a little bit of your story, or even just how you felt about your story and somebody else's, is just something that I don't think can be, like, the value of that cannot even, clearly have no words for it. So we appreciate it so much.
Yeah. And, just on the side, we're able to get into the, hopefully the Phoenix community out here in the Tampa Bay area. So whatever resource I can help with, once our second affiliate gets open, what was the gentleman's name? I want to say Caleb.
Probably Caleb. Yep. Shout out Caleb.
Get hooked up with Caleb, and hopefully we can get on a schedule and start supporting Phoenix out here. We're kind of getting pushed back with like zoning and code. So it's going to be a little longer before our doors get open, but I definitely want to, like I said, be a resource out here as well.
Heck yeah. I mean, just being you in the community, I think, is already a resource. Like the building and those kinds of things will come, but just you being here and being an advocate and being the kind of person who shares with people that you come across is huge. That's Phoenix. And
awesome.
We're really excited. Cool. So Alex, what can people do if they want to hear more about you, from you, connect with you? We can just obviously link any socials that you'd like to share, but if there's anything else you'd like to share with folks to find you, please feel free.
Yeah, I mean, you can get, CrossFitDecimate.com is our website. That website covers both the Colorado Springs and Florida locations. My Instagram is just Alex Esqueda. I'm on there. I'm pretty easy to reach and get a hold of. But I've always tried to make myself available for anybody, whether it's recovery help or fitness help or nutrition help or anything like that, or just I'm a sayings guy. My kids make fun of me because I have a saying for everything. But I heard
That's why you fit it around here.
A great saying says, "You don't got to work out to hang out." And I love that one. Like, in the gym too, I tell people in the gym, you don't got to work out to hang out. Come hang out. Like, especially people in recovery. Like, you want to come in and just have a pot of coffee? Let's go. Like, just be here rather than someplace else, right? So if it means that you're calling me or just coming into the gym or whatever to not be someplace else, I'm here. So.
I love that. And there might be a dog, and I'll be there.
There could be a dog. My wife's got the dogs right now, and they're two, and one's this horse of a dog. So.
Oh, it's my favorite. All right, cool. Well, CrossFit Decimate to be opened in St. Pete and elsewhere, and
looking like the Largo area. The Largo area is where we're pretty much locked down to now. But CrossFit Decimate East.
Awesome, amazing. What do you think, Bryce?
Thank you, guys.
Oh, we're so grateful for you, Alex. What do you think, Bryce? Did we do it?
We did it. We did it.
Yay. Well, super grateful for everybody listening. As always, hitting that subscribe button or follow button, depending on what app you're listening to this on, does enormous good for us so that you don't miss an episode. Hopefully good for you so that you don't miss an episode. Leave us a rating, leave us a review. You can talk to us on our app. Bryce can give you a little more info there.
Yeah, right quick. You'll hear from past me here in a second when this episode ends, but future me, present me is going to tell you to get that app. When you download that app, go in that community group, which is the Rise, Recover, Live community group. Get the Phoenix app from the App Store. Go on the Rise, Recover, Live community group and come holler at me and Liz. We'll be there. Tell us what you love about the show, what you don't like about the show, what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of, and we create content around that. Come talk to us. We'll talk to you then.
Yes, we sure will. Well, we love you, and we will see you next time.
Catch you later.
So now you're excited. Bryce, Liz, how do I get involved with the Phoenix? Well, my friend, it is super simple. We actually have an app. head over to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or look in the show notes of this podcast, wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast, and go download the Phoenix app.
The Phoenix app makes it so easy to find classes that are near you or to access our virtual class schedule where you can hop on from the comfort of your home. You can also join our groups and have a conversation with someone from the Phoenix community from anywhere in the world. Please make sure that you join the podcast group where you can connect with Bryce and I and other listeners. Everything that you need is in the show notes. You can also head to our website at www.thephoenix.org. And maybe while you're there, you click the volunteer tab and get even more involved.